1 mile high. John Doe.
JDR News Live.
The human brain is made for thinking, not fumigate. It's hardly a thinker toy or experiment. Not fumigate with drugs.
Why do we talk about marijuana? It's the single biggest drug that is a source of some confusion.
This is really about educating the public about the fact that marijuana is a less harmful drug.
Marijuana, that's to get high.
You can be as high as you want.
The prohibition of marijuana over the last 71 years has not actually prevented you from using marijuana.
You feel weak.
I'm sure to winning the war on drugs.
I do believe there have been some successes.
We will never arrest our way out of this problem.
Welcome to the John Doe Radio Show, JDR News Live Daily. I am Tim Martin, JDR. Very nice of you to join us here on this fantastic Thursday evening, or whatever time it is, wherever you're at. I had to double check there and make sure it was actually Thursday evening. Sometimes I get lost in my stony days. You know what I'm talking about. Again, JDR News Live, Monday through Saturday. Where the hell did that come? Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. If you miss anything that we do here live, youtube.com/John Doe Radio/live. You can catch it all at John Doe Radio, JohnDoeRad.io. You got it. It's all there. You can subscribe easily. You can even go to iTunes and click subscribe if you use iTunes or you're an iPhone type person. All you got to do is just click that subscribe button. Everything that we upload to our feed, audio-wise, gets sent to you, and it's good times. Fantastic times. Big thanks to the people that make the JDR possible. First and foremost, the JDR Army. You that hang out with us on the John Doe Radio Show, could not thank you enough for all the good times. Also, big thanks to our sponsors that make the John Doe Radio Show possible. Weedbiz.net. Weedbiz.net. Make sure you check them out. Our good friends over at YourGraphics.com. Make sure you check them out on Facebook, URGRAFIX. If you need a website to be made, you need some advertising pictures, images, things that people click on when they're on the internet, and maybe make you some money and sell some product, YourGraphics.com, Your Graphics online. What she really did ask me to make sure that you guys hit her up on Facebook. So you should hit her up on Facebook, URGRAFIX.com, and they'll take care of you. Also, big thanks to the JDR News Daily crew, the supporters, everybody. Brought to you by USACannabisConsulting.com. JDR is. So all of us thank you. USACannabisConsulting.com. Holler at them if you need a consultant. Molly's going to distract me again today. I see how it is, Molly. I'll have to tell you a story in a second about the other day when she was distracting me on the show and what she did. Oh, my God. A mess. Just ridiculous. That'll come in a second. Anyway, USACannabisConsulting.com. Our good friends over there. Holler at them. If you need a consultant, they're all-inclusive. Can even build you a spot. USACannabisConsulting.com. Holler at them. Here we go. Let's go.
You're now listening to Billet Beats.
Today, on JDR News Live, we got audio from a Congressman Colorado Congressman calling for the DEA heads firing, another cannabis product recall here in Colorado. How will Colorado decide what pesticides are safe, and what's the next step into all this mess that we're dealing with? Utah proposing 2 medical marijuana bills and raids on a few shops in Michigan. So quite a lot of news since we missed you yesterday. Sorry about that. Wasn't really my fault. I know I like to not blame things on myself. We all are like that. I think we all kind of sit down and like to think things that happen are not exactly our fault, and maybe there's some other crazy force in play that we can blame. But anyway, the night before was crazy winds. Just insane winds. I think some places here in the foothills, Evergreen, got like 120 mile per hour winds. So at some point, the winds knocked out the power. And it became a situation to where we were like candles, lighting our way type of people, which was cool. You could deal with that every once in a while. When I used to live up in Craig, Snowtown, USA, even when it wasn't snowing or the weather was nice, there'd just be some wild animal that would climb up the pole, chew on the cord. Hey, that's she's grabbing shiz and trying to chew it up. Molly is. That's who goes into play our story. The next story we'll get to. Anyway, power used to go out all the time here. Anyway, the power went out the other night, and we were left with no cable, no internet for that entire day. Calling up Comcast, trying to get it fixed. And I'm sure, dealing with Comcast in the past yourself, how much of a pain in the ass it can be, or really what the big issue is, how random the shiz can be with them. Like one day it's one thing wrong, and then the next day they're testing shiz, and I don't know. Either way, pain in the ass. I absolutely despise Comcast, but they're really the only company around us that you can get at all has decent cable. You can go with a few other companies, but it's probably 10 times worse. So taking the best of the worst. Anyway, so that's why we didn't have a show yesterday, because shiz was just crazy with the internet. What are you doing? Go lay down. Anyway, Molly used to be the good luck charm, but I think she gets a little upset now, feeling left out here on JDR. The other day, she's distracted me as we were sitting here trying to talk, and I thought that she had one of her chew toys in her mouth, and she was going to town on one of her chew toys, which is entirely fantastically cool. That's fine. What's not cool is when she had my pair of nice rubber gloves, warm rubber gloves. No, not those rubber gloves, like winter rubber gloves that you can use to grip on things in the winter, working gloves. And she decided they needed, some air circulation to them. So she chewed a bunch of holes in them and then ate all the awesomeness that was inside, all the fuzz. Which I'm sure why she enjoyed it so much, because dogs like saltiness. So I'm sure all the sweat from your hands, and it's just, it's disgusting to think about. Anyway, she's with us again today, hanging out, causing issues. If she decides to say hi later, jumps up, then I'll let her say hi to you. Either way, hope you're having a fantastic day wherever it is that you are. JDR News Live Daily. Thank you again for hanging out with us Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock Mountain Time. If you missed anything, johndorad.io. First story I have for you today is kind of some long audio. There's about 4.5 minutes of audio here. We'll try and make it fun. Come in and out of it. Interesting audio, not just some boring ass crazy audio that you might tune out to. I don't know, you might tune out to this too, but something that you would want to hear, and it's actually a congressman, somebody that we elect, and more proof that what we're doing here in Colorado is changing things all over the place. So sometimes we get kind of frustrated and we get down and we start to think that maybe we aren't making as much change as we want to be across the world, and the things that we're doing with legalization, the things that we're doing with reform aren't actually doing a whole lot outside of our state. Well, this is proof right here that what we're doing is actually doing something, and it's fantastic.
Mr. Speaker. Chuck Rosenberg, the acting administrator of the Drug Enforcement Agency.
By the way, this is Representative Earl Blumenauer. Is actually from Oregon. He's not from Colorado. I mistaken him for another dude that I was thinking of. Oregon. But just goes to show that what you do in those states goes on to push these people who you voted into office, put into office, to do the right thing, which is great. Play.
Recently called the notion of smoking medical marijuana a joke. What is a joke is the job Rosenberg is doing as acting DEA administrator. He's an example of the inept, misinformed zealot who has mismanaged America's failed policy of marijuana prohibition.
When was the last time that you heard any congressman kind of talk like this about the DEA or go after a group like this? Now, we've had a couple Colorado congressmen. What's his name? I always forget this dude's name, even though I've met him a couple times. Damn it. I can't remember his name. Maybe I'll think of it here soon. But either way, introduced a bill to basically end the prohibition of marijuana last year. This year, it was Bernie Sanders that introduced the bill. God dang it. What was that dude's name? It's a great, fantastic dude. Prefers the company of men, which is fine for him. I'm just trying to think of his name. Remind me. God, anyway.
Americans recognize it's time for a change in direction to legalize, regulate, and tax marijuana.
All right, Jared Pelosi. That's his... No, it's not Nancy. Jared... God damn it. First name is Jared. Last name is not Pelosi. First name is not Nancy. Anyway, listen to this.
58% now support legalization, continuing an upward trend in public opinion and at the ballot box. Over 75% of American public supports medical marijuana, as does a majority of American physicians. Rosenberg claims medical marijuana is a joke. But the proven therapeutic value of cannabis has prompted 23 states, Guam and the District of Columbia, to approve its medical application, and an additional 17 states have authorized...
By the way, it was Jared Polis. Jared Pelosi. That's hilarious. Anyway, let's get back to this dude Blumenauer rip into the DEA, which is fantastic. This is the last time you heard this. This is refreshing. It's beautiful.
More limited use. Rosenberg's claim that more research is necessary is true, but it reeks of hypocrisy because the DEA, under his leadership, has made badly needed cannabis research difficult, often impossible. Boom. If Rosenberg were doing his job, he could have visited with some of the hundreds of thousands who have found medical marijuana has had a profound effect on their lives and that of their families. President Obama is the first sitting president to tell the truth about cannabis. His administration has not acted to shut down the adult or medical reforms sweeping the country, but sadly, it isn't just his DEA administrator who's undercutting his policy. Last month, the Department of Justice took an outrageously flawed position on the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment that passed with strong bipartisan support, which clearly specified that the federal government should not interfere with state legal medical marijuana operations.
This dude's just coming in with a flamethrower. Oh, that's your couch farting.
The Department of Justice and the DEA contends that it only prevents action against states, not individuals. This is a ridiculous interpretation of the law and caused a federal court in California to rule, quote, it defies language and logic in deciding against them. More recently, the Senate passed the Milcon Appropriations Bill, which included an amendment offered by my colleague in Oregon, Senator Merkley, mirroring my legislation to allow VA doctors to recommend medical marijuana to their patients in accordance with state law. Yet, on November 13th, the Department of Veterans Affairs indicated they won't allow doctors and patients to participate in state legal marijuana laws, even if this bill becomes law. Sadly,
that's something that we haven't really covered here on JDR, because I was trying to look into the story a little bit more, and as the story came out, it just seemed like it was too good to be true, that the federal stance with veterans being able to use cannabis would change so drastically immediately. And as more and more news comes out, not necessarily the case.
These actions by administrating officials are indicative of a throwback ideology rooted in the failed war on drugs, which needs to stop. They do not reflect the overwhelming body of evidence about the effects of medical marijuana, the reforms happening at the state level and in Congress, or the opinion of the American people. They don't reflect the statements by the President himself and the official policy promulgated by Deputy Attorney General Cole outlining the administration's commitment to stay out of the way of state marijuana laws. There's overwhelming evidence that marijuana offers relief when nothing else has helped, including more effective pain management tools than highly addictive narcotics, as opioid overdoses are skyrocketing and we have an epidemic of heroin abuse. Sadly, the culture of opposition in the federal government continues. On one level, we have this amazing progress at the state.
We got like another minute of this left, but it's just absolutely torches.
Chuck wrote
opinion
of the American people.
My bad.
Evidence that marijuana offers narcotics.
Son of a beach.
One level, we have this amazing progress at the state.
That's why this is what sucks about having a touchscreen. Sometimes you can actually screw things up like that. Anyway, it's extremely important that you hear what he has to say. Last minute of it.
And local level, we've made significant progress here in Congress with the introduction of over 20 bills in both chambers dealing with federal treatment of cannabis and hemp. And there have been successful votes on 3 amendments on the floor of the House and 3 in Senate committees in this Congress. This culture needs to change. Leadership needs to change. Rosenberg is clearly not the right fit for the DEA in this administration. I would hope that the President directs the heads of all relevant agencies to adjust their policies, clarify regulations that deal with marijuana laws, establish policies that reflect changing state laws, and most important, reflect the President's own position. He has said that he has bigger fish to fry than interfere with state legislative efforts. It's time that the rest of his administration gets on board.
Fantastic. This is just something, like I said, extremely refreshing. That's Blumenauer, representative from Oregon, Portland and Gresham area. But again, something fantastic to hear from people pushing what we've already started in Oregon, Washington, California, Colorado, Alaska, Washington, D.C., pushing this forward and actually making changes, pushing for changes that we want to see on the federal level. Exciting. And not only is it awesome that he would take that chance to talk about this and push forward and stick his neck out there and push for our rights, but what's cool is not only did, and I highly doubt that this person, that Blumenauer, thinks that he's going to do anything with getting the DEA head fired. I don't think that that's his goal in this situation. I don't think that a lot of people, a lot of politicians in these situations start attacking directly what they're talking about. But as you heard and listened to him, he starts talking about things that are attached to the drug war and attached to the DEA and the way that the DEA thinks and acts when it comes down to the drug war, basically attacking what they're doing and using the idea that the DEA said medical marijuana was a joke as the soapbox to jump off from. It's fantastic to see politics work in your favor, towards your direction. Denver issuing its 9th pot product recall in 10 weeks. By the way, thanks to C-SPAN for that audio, the Cannabis, for this news story. The city of Denver announced the 9th marijuana recall in 10 weeks on Wednesday. This one is for more than 12,600 packages of pot-infused edibles made by Gaia's Garden. Again, latest voluntary recall. As with others, targets cannabis products contaminated with potentially dangerous pesticides not approved for use on marijuana. And the next story is going to talk about what Colorado's doing to move towards what is approved for legal pesticide use and who's being left up to prove that and to make those decisions. Wednesday's recall is the second for Gaia's Garden, which saw the recall of more than 8,000 packages of edibles in November. Added together, the 2 Gaia Garden recalls equal the state's largest yet recall of infused products. To some degree, it's growing pains and not the black eye people may think. Gaia's managing partner Eric White said, "This is a sign of positively building a positively building industry." He says, Gaia's Garden first recall came as a result of pesticide-tainted marijuana purchased from cultivation facility True Cannabis. The second recall source material is unknown and is currently being investigated, according to Denver's Department of Environmental Health. Much of the recall is of products produced months ago, White added. "We rely on suppliers to bring in quality products," he said, noting his business makes up confections for marijuana and its derivatives produced by other companies, and we need the ability to validate our suppliers. Gaia's has initiated 2 pesticide tests on all incoming supplies before any production takes place, which is something that these people should have been doing long before this. And even if it wasn't a situation to where this was law and this was the regulation that was put into place and enforceable at the time, thinking ahead and knowing that you could have had products that are on the shelf or being put out after the regulation went into effect, that even though at the time you're making this stuff, that the arm, the extension of those products and where they would end up would be after these regulations would be put in place, that's just bad business. It's not looking at the rules and seeing how they could affect you in the long run and playing along with a positively growing business model. Wednesday's recall involved 30 Gaia's Garden products, lemon drops sold recreationally, and ginger drops sold medically that tested positive for a number of banned pesticides, including, oh man, these are some crazy words. Let's try and say these. Myclobutanil, excuse me, avermectin, just keep getting harder and harder as we go along here. We got two more. Imidacloprid, and etoxazole. This is fun to say. Hard words sometimes. The company, no matter how much of an idiot it makes you look, the company has been a confectioner that produced chocolates and other sweets before taking on cannabis clients. Consumers who purchased the recalled edibles marketed by specific batch numbers outlined in the city's press release should dispose of the product, return it to the point of purchase, or email the company at gaiasrecall@gmail.com. Special recall email set up for you to contact them. gaiasrecall@gmail.com. By the way, you can also go on the Marijuana Enforcement Division's website and find these banned pesticides, what they are specifically. That's a little bit harder to find then. You can also find the recalled items, the banned recalled items from Gaia's and other places. The random spots that have fallen into ridiculousness. Which, like I said, doesn't make any sense that they would have had months and months and months to prepare for this. It should have had somebody looking out for the betterment of these companies to say, hey, you know, we might get nabbed with these down the line, even though it's not a regulation right now. Colorado putting the onus on industry to prove pesticides are safe on pot. A federal law that permits pesticides to be used on crops threatened by an outbreak or infestation could be the solution for marijuana growers struggling with restrictions on the chemicals they can use. But critics on both sides wonder whether it will be a boon for the pesticide and marijuana industries or a bust because of the many hurdles impeding success. State and federal regulators are poised to give pesticide manufacturers specialized approval for their products to be used on marijuana as long as the companies can prove the chemicals are not harmful to consumers when ingested. Did you hear that? State and federal regulators are poised to give pesticide manufacturers specialized approval. Because really one of the big things holding this whole mamma jamma up and why there's some chemicals and pesticides out there that are being used more than others is because these companies that make it haven't been approved to be able to solicit to cannabis producers because they have given their permission and mandated and regulated by the federal government, and the federal government doesn't approve of you using cannabis on the official level. So why would they approve of somebody that they regulate heavily pushing their product towards cannabis consumers, the cannabis growers? This, a big step forward. Working at a shop, I've said this before, working at a grow shop, when you start to read the labels of what people are using generally, a lot of these labels say that you should only be using this pesticide or this chemical. God, I keep slurring my words horribly today. I should have done my mouth exercises before the show. What those are, I have no clue. And as that came out of my mouth, I realized it was the wrong thing to say. But a lot of these saying that they have ornamental use only. They should only be used for ornamental situations. Say like you got a tree that's growing outside and all it is there is for good looks. Nobody's eating anything off of it. It's not being affected by human consumption or touch. Those pesticides being used is such a huge issue in this industry. And like I've said before, I knew that it was going to come to a head like this. The federal government and state officials allowing these people to be able to actually create and put together concoctions that can be used on cannabis is a huge step forward, because technically none of these things existed, quote unquote, before. Or at least it was still an underground situation, and so that's why people were still using them. Because for some reason the black market equals not giving a fuck about anything, and we can go ahead and do whatever we want, which is why we have regulations in the first place. People would just do the right thing, then we wouldn't have to worry about regulations. But that's asking a little bit too much of our fellow humans. So, anyway, moving on the story. The move is the first time the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, which regulates pesticide use, has offered any help on how pesticides could be legally used on marijuana, a crop that is illegal under federal law. Under a registration program called 24C, a pesticide manufacturer can apply for a special local need exemption, allowing the chemical to be applied to marijuana crops in Colorado. It was an idea that the state first suggested in late 2012, according to documents reviewed by the Denver Post, but it took until early 2015 before it garnered any interest with the EPA. Just having a potential option is a huge step forward, Mitchell Yergert, he's got a funny last name, director of the Colorado Department of Agriculture's Division of Plant Industry, wrote in an email to the EPA that the EPA is even at the table is tremendous, he said. Marijuana growers are skeptical the rule would offer quick solutions. I wouldn't say I have high hopes for it, says Josh Malman, grow operations manager at the clinic in Denver. I talked with some chemical manufacturers at a trade show recently, and I heard from some who wouldn't work in the industry. I don't see it as being a quick remedy to the situation. Or you could be a damn Debbie Downer like this dude from the clinic. Industry representatives said they would also be cautiously optimistic. We don't know if the 24C process will solve the problem until there is action at the federal level. The 24C process appears to be the only avenue available to us, said Michael Elliott, executive director for the Marijuana Industry Group. So we're cautiously optimistic that manufacturers will want to work through the process and that growers will eventually have an additional tool to help them provide a safe, high-quality product to their customers. CDA officials tried unsuccessfully to get the guidance from EPA on how to handle the issue of pesticides on marijuana when legal recreational sales began in January of last year. The back and forth between the CDA and the EPA over the past 3 years resulted in a mixed bag of proposed regulations for which pesticides could be allowed to grow cannabis. CDA initially hoped to limit permissible pesticides to the most non-toxic, those that don't even require federal registration, but industry pressure to use more effective pesticides pushed that back, and the state eventually allowed an array of chemicals whose warning labels were so broadly worked that using them on marijuana would not be a violation. Way around the rules, which is ridiculous, especially if we're trying to regulate an industry responsibly. And not only that, give people a good product that's not going to harm them. Makes sense that you would, want to keep your customers alive. Isn't that the motto of drug dealers everywhere? So I'm not trying to get you to overdose and keep you alive. Think I want to lose that cash? That Skrilla coming in? Hell no. Keep that dang old money coming in. The rulemaking process for this is expected to last through January. Currently, the state allows more than 200 pesticides on marijuana, but the new rules, if approved, would pare it to about 75 before exemptions are added. EPA approval of a 24C application is a passive process. CDA would make initial approval, then pass the application on to the EPA, who would either deny it or do nothing. 24C exemption was designated for situations of an existing or imminent pest problem where a pesticide registered with the EPA is not sufficiently available where the problem arises, according to the agency. For example, if you can't understand that, then I don't know what to tell you. So let's give you an example anyway. For example, a special local need registration might allow for pesticides to be used on soybeans when it is only registered to use on corn, or to be used in an outbreak of a pest unique to a local crop for which nothing else is available to combat the problem. By showing that a pest could not be adequately controlled and that unacceptable levels of damage would result from without approval, the number of chemicals available to the marijuana industry could increase significantly. Any application, however, must also show a pesticide is already allowed on food products and tobacco and allowed on crops similar characteristics. With cannabis, persuading the pesticide industry to participate might be a hard sell. The cannabis market is a difficult market to enter because there are so many regulators and people who are afraid of that process or being disclosed in that process. Said this dude from Pure Ag, a small agricultural company whose product was recently approved for the use of marijuana in Colorado. I hate to tell you, but you guys are a minor market, Sandra McDonald of Mountain West Pest told industry stakeholders at a meeting in late 2014. You're not, say, cotton, soybeans, tobacco, rice, or corn, the major six. No company has yet to change a label to bar pesticides use on marijuana, CDA officials confirmed for the Denver Post. And that's true. We may not be the biggest market out there, but that's going to change in coming years. That's going to be something that isn't necessarily going to be true for much longer, especially when you have places like California butt up against legalization. You have hemp crops possibly coming into play. Problem with hemp is that even if it's legalized or allowed to grow in whatever area that you're in, it has to be bred for that specific area in order to obtain any specific characteristic that you're looking for. It's not just like you can plant any given hemp crop. It's the same thing with marijuana. Not to the extent that we've bred marijuana out and there's different characteristics of marijuana, but the same thing can happen. The same thing needs to be done to where if you want to grow it, say here in Colorado for higher elevation, a little bit colder temperatures at the beginning and the end of the grow season, maybe having a more robust plant because we have a little bit of crazy weather here in Colorado. Those type of things need to be bred back into, or certain things bred out of hemp. And it's going to take some time to be able to do that. So while we're legalizing and allowing hemp crops to grow, that's another big reason why you don't see these massive crops being planted. It's not only just because these farmers and these people, it's hard to get them to switch their crops over or at least take the chance, the opportunity to grow these crops. It's also that, we need to have a viable specimen to be able to grow in certain situations. So that's going to take time. A little bit more time than we hope, possibly, probably, but still, in the long run, it's going to be awesome. And we could see hemp and cannabis becoming one of these major products. And like I said, especially one of these major products in bigger states. Kentucky, for example, for hemp. California, growing actual weed. Maybe even the northern part of California being its own powerhouse in growing cannabis as it is right now. Illegally growing cannabis, or at least the medical side of things. It's really exciting to think about. It's a massive, massive, massive industry that we've got untapped here. And just Colorado, just California, just Oregon, just Washington, having these tax income, that's just the start. When people get kind of bummed out because they're having a hard time finding a gig here in Colorado when it's in the industry, or you start to talk about jobs or whatever it is, and market kind of closing off to certain jobs. Well, think about how much of the market we've actually tapped and how much is left and where people are going to be able to go down the line to be able to get these jobs. We're just starting with all this. It's just beginning something that you're going to be able to get into. Now, granted, people that have been in early here, Colorado, California, other places, maybe it'll be easier for them to bring their massive business that they've created here to another spot and have capital to be able to build it from there. But they're going to need people under them to help them out locally and take care of business there locally. So it's funny because what we're seeing here is kind of ridiculous, and we knew it was coming as far as having cannabis branding. I thought I got rid of this stupid bed. Hold on. Let me pause that. Let me drag it down here. We got to get rid of that bed. Can't have... Yes, I want to delete it from the library. We can't have police sirens in the background distracted me and you guys as we're sitting here talking. I apologize for that. I was about ready to get some police siren samples in that tune. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, crops becoming bigger, opportunity for people to stay in the industry, get in the industry. It's huge. We haven't even begun to tap it. So if you're down about that, don't be down about it. Utah. Not often that we talk about cannabis in Utah unless it's someone being busted in the Mormon state. Utah state legislature will consider 2 separate medical marijuana bills when it meets next year, but cannabis advocates claim only one of those bills is actually going to do patients good. Legislatures Interim Health and Human Services Committee met Wednesday to discuss a pair of bills, one sponsored by this Republican dude, other sponsored by another Republican dude, because really that's all there is in Utah. It's Republican dudes with 50 wives. One representative said the bill would allow for cannabidiol to be used to treat a long list of diseases and conditions, including cancer, HIV, AIDS, and epilepsy. Is all I can think of. Cannabidiol. When I say that is Bud and Doyle from Biodome, which is a fantastic movie. Should have won an Academy Award, in my opinion. I refer back to that movie many, many, many times. He said this bill would allow for it to be used a long list of diseases, blah, 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 blah. He's also told the committee that prescribing doctors would provide research on its effectiveness to the legislature that would be considered when the law would come up for renewal. This dude says, the representative, we feel like this is the prudent manner that to allow for patients to be treated with a component of marijuana that can be considered medicinal. Senator Madsen's bill, one of the dudes that we were talking about, would allow for the who had the other bill, would allow for THC to be used in cannabis products to be treated with a similar to treat a similar list of ailments. There are clearly differences in the history of the two bills, the underlying philosophy of the two bills. Is CBD going to be able to do the deal? Is it going to be as effective as THC in terms of treating these conditions? God, these guys are horrible. What a bunch of asshats. It's impossible to read any of their statements because it's just so broad and ridiculous. Hey, Molly, what's up? What are you doing? Hey, bring that over here. You be chewing that up. He's always grabbing something. Give me that. Hey, can I have that? Thank you. She's so cute. She's like, but why can't I eat it? I want to chew this up. Here, take it then. Medical marijuana advocates agreed that CBD is not going to just be it's not just going to help people and be effective as THC combined with CBD. That's what they're saying. Medical marijuana advocates agreed at a news conference Wednesday. Drug Policy Project of Utah highlighted people who have tried numerous prescription drugs for treatment but found relief through cannabis. I'm asking for the decision to use medical cannabis to treat my very rare disorder to be a decision I make with my physicians who are experts on my condition and my health, said Jessica Gleim, who suffers from a rare chronic pain condition. She's asking our state representatives to include, Utah state representatives, to include all suffering in pain to be in medical cannabis programs. Committee passed one bill out favorably, but Senator Madsen's bill was still being drafted, so the committee took no action on it. He told lawmakers he would have the bill ready in time for legislative session. God, this is a horribly written article. Absolutely horrible article. So the second bill would allow THC, and the first bill passed through that was just CBD, to clarify this ridiculous news article. So CBD, possibly a thing that's going to be coming to Utah. THC, probably not something that's going to be coming to Utah in the near future. And legalization, good luck with that. Better living in Oklahoma. Neither places I would recommend you living in, especially Oklahoma. I don't know. You might be able to hide out a little in Utah in the mountains there. Maybe create yourself a nice little snow den. You'd be fine. Oklahoma, there's really just not shit. You might be able to hide behind one of the oil rigs in Oklahoma. But they'll find you. They will. Just get the fuck out of there. Also, some raids happening in Michigan. Police say some or all of the businesses that we're going to talk about raided may be owned by the same people. Police say they have confiscated marijuana cash and other evidence from a number of medical marijuana dispensaries in Kent County. Members of the Metropolitan Enforcement Team and Kent County Sheriff's Department hit at least 3 businesses Wednesday night. Police don't say what possible crimes they are investigating, but say they have confiscated marijuana, cash, and other evidence from dispensaries. One of them, TPC on West River Drive, recently opened. It kind of shocked me, says nearby resident Clayton Steffers. I saw all the squad cars, and I was like, wow, they're already getting raided. My mom uses medical marijuana and as a kind of pain reliever. I know she comes over here. It's nice. It's convenient. It's down by the corner from my house. A man who answered the door at TPC, also known as the Provision Center, confirmed police took their medical marijuana and their money. Police say some or all of the businesses raided may have been owned by the same person. And once again, doesn't say anything. And this goes back to a lot of raids that happen in California. That people getting raided, having their stock stolen by the police, having all their money taken, basically being robbed by the police, and then not even being charged with a crime. Just having all your shiz taken from you, all your money, by the police, and then not charged with a single damn thing. Which is insane and absolutely ridiculous. Like we talked about before, forfeiture, when it comes to the drug war, forfeiture. What up, Molly? She decided to jump up and say hi. Say hi to everybody. Anyway, civil forfeiture and forfeiture just in general, not even having necessarily court orders or a right to do so, but them just being specifically officers saying that they have the right, saying that we're working in the name of the law here. It's ridiculous. This type of shit shouldn't happen. It's freaking nuts. And who knows what kind of bias the cops had against these people or what these people have necessarily done. Granted, the news report didn't say a whole lot. We got to assume, though, that it was just weed and money that pissed off the police. What? Sit. This dog is the best. She's awesome. Anyway, that's probably going to do it for today's JDR News Live Daily. Hopefully, you're nice and stony yourself, staying warm in this winter. Kind of a sort of warmer winter than I think we've been used to in the past few years. Last night was pretty cold, but all across the nation, I haven't been seeing a lot of snow reports. Not a lot of burr, chilly, bitching and moaning about the weather type situations like we normally have. I'm sure that's coming, though. Watch, we have this niceness here for a while and don't have to deal with the harsh winter, and then January, end of December, just shits on us. Snow. Cold, freezing. We'll have to pay for it in the long run. Anyway, big thanks to those people that make the John Doe Radio Show possible. Thank you to our awesome listeners, the JDR Army, who couldn't do it without you. Also, big thanks to our sponsors here on the John Doe Radio Show. If you need a consultant, head to our good friends, USACannabisconsulting.com. Tell them the John Doe Radio Show sent you. Also, Your Graphics on Facebook. Holler at them. Tell Jessica Trim that the JDR sent you, and she'll take care of you. If she doesn't, let me know. We'll yell at her and say, hey, Jessica, why are you not taking care of him? But that would never happen. So that's not something that we would ever do. And then she'd yell back and she'd be like, damn it, I am taking care of him. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just kidding. I don't think she would ever yell at us. She's like the best. Look at our website, johndorad.io. It's the shit. She's taking care of everything we've asked for. And then some. Fantastic place to go to get your website done, or graphics. URGRAFIX.com. Maybe not your normal commercial for a product there, but hey, it's true. I have no clue what I'm talking about. I gotta go eat and smoke. It's one of those days. Randomness. Also, big thanks to weedbiz.net. Couldn't do it without them. You wouldn't be listening to the John Doe Radio Show if we didn't have weedbiz.net on our side, so holler at them. Get yourself a grow pod if you need one. Fantastic grow pods, by the way. Professional, awesome work. Tell them the JDR sent you. And if you'd like to join us here on the John Doe Radio Show in any capacity, whether it be giving us news, maybe some comments that you have to throw towards us, a product that you'd like to give out on the show, product you'd like to advertise on the show, we can take care of you. JohnDoeRadio@gmail.com. All right, until tomorrow. It's already Friday. Can you believe that? We'll see you tomorrow. We'll make it ultra stony. Have yourself a fantastic time. Tell your friends about us. I'm Tim. See you.
programming is not limited to information on agriculture subjects and is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. We specifically include responsible marijuana reform.
Listening to anyone but your mother is just plain stupid.
We accept no responsibility for your actions or misrepresentations, and we do not fully endorse the use of illegal drugs. You are ultimately responsible for yourself.
Live.